I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Lena Paul, and I am an adult film industry performer and producer. I am here today at AVN 2020 at the Mile High booth.
Describe yourself growing up.
Growing up, I would call myself, I definitely had like a 10-year-long awkward phase. I was a farm kid. I grew up very, like books and animals were my company, so I was a quiet child growing up initially, and yeah, I appreciate the raising that I had because it made me much more like bookish and well-versed in things. I think if I'd just been thrown into like regular school and just been cute and had no awkwardness or whatever, I wouldn't be as interesting as I am. Not that I'm like super interesting, but you know what I mean.
How did you start in the industry?
I was using Snapchat and other forms of like content and sex work to bootstrap my own startup.
What do you enjoy most about being a porn star?
What do I enjoy most about being a porn star? I enjoy being freed from my sexual hang-ups. You know, I think like a lot of people, I grew up conservatively, and it took me a long time to sort of like work out and puzzle out how sexual politics work, you know? Like Americans are so funny about sex and so repressive about it. So like it's nice to feel like that's a subject that's settled for me. I know who I am sexually and I know what I want. And I'm good at getting what I want.
What's your favourite sexual position?
I would say it's a tie between deep missionary with like my arms locked around you, or like a kind of, we call it prone bone in the business, but it's kind of like a doggy where you're like really low and like not like quite on your knees, like almost flat.
There's often a stigma around the adult industry. How has this affected you?
Oh my gosh, how has the stigma of the adult industry affected me? It's certainly toughened me up. It's given me a much thicker skin, an ability to say no and to navigate sexual situations that I might have been too shy to. I have no problem looking somebody in the eye and saying, fuck you, I'm not comfortable with that, I'm not going to do that, which is something I was too shy to do before. The stigma, I've had people call my family and tell them that they think that I'm a lowlife and that my family is the lowlife for making me. I've had people terrorize my grandparents and post their address on the internet. I've had people threaten. They thought I had a child. I've had people threaten my supposed child. Yeah, it's a lot.
What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do during a shoot?
They asked the male talent to ejaculate on a breakfast biscuit and have me eat that as the cum shot. That was definitely the weirdest thing.
Probably the most common question now. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to get into the industry?
Own your content. I said this years ago, and it has become truer and truer with every year. The more content that you own, there's no residuals in traditional pornography. Mainstream studios do not give you residuals. Content that you own is residuals forever. So maybe instead of shooting for a professional company, you opt to stay home and create your own content. Sure, you forego money in your hand immediately, but that content will pay you back throughout the lifetime of your career and even long after. With enough content, you will be forever 25 if you choose to be. That's my big advice.
What hobbies and interests do you have outside of the industry?
I'm a huge like computer nerd and history nerd. I was a historian before I was in porn. I love reading. I love dicking around on computer games. I'm a film nerd. I don't know. These days my life is consumed by work, but when I have spare time, I've really been enjoying baking.
Do you use sex toys? If so, which ones?
Do I what?
Do you use sex toys? If so, which ones?
So I have a Hitachi that I use pretty regularly. I use glass toys. I really like them for anal. And there is something, so I've started doing this thing just to be a brat. So I have my own fleshlight, like one that was molded from me. And when I'm feeling particularly bratty with a sexual partner that I know is submissive, that's a man, I'll take my pussy and hold it away and use the fleshlight on him and tell him he's not allowed to have my real pussy until he begs for it.
If you were interviewing a porn star, what would you ask them, and answer this question yourself?
If I were interviewing a porn star, what questions would I ask them? You know, I think my questions would be about what life would be like after porn for them, what they'd conceptualized if porn is their forever home, or if porn is a pathway into other things, a financial pathway or a promotional pathway, or what exactly motivated them in that regard. I think that's one that is interesting to me. I would ask them what their favorite baked good and music album is.
And your answers to those questions?
My plan for after porn, I am a producer and a director, so my goal is for me to produce and direct media, and to continue to, I don't know, diversify my investment portfolio. I utilized porn as a bootstrapping agent for my startup, so I continue to want to invest into new ventures. And then, what else did I say? My favorite album? I would say that my favorite album, one that I can listen to endlessly, is most likely the Black Keys Eponymous album.
What really turns you on?
Genuinely turns me on. Be nice to me. I like people with, like, genuinely kind people turn me on. I'm much more interested in the character of the person and whether or not you're a good communicator and you're genuinely in the moment with me than I am on your specific kink. We can work out what exactly your kink is and how to satisfy you and me, but I don't know, the older I get, the more I want to just have sex with people I actually like as human beings. Call me weird.
So directing, when you started in the industry so many years ago, is directing something you wanted to go into, or it's just happened over the years?
I don't think that I would have thought 3.5 years ago when I started that I would be directing right now. I definitely don't think that that was on my radar initially, but I've always kind of been a ladder climber on anything that I work on, and it just felt like sort of the natural next step to want to diversify. Like, I like trying everything. Like, when I like something, like porn, I want to know every which way to make it happen.
What do you think you bring to the industry as a director?
I'm sorry, say again?
What do you think you bring to the industry as a director?
I think performer directors have the potential to be much more compassionate directors as a result of having been on both sides of the camera. You know, I know exactly how hard I'm pushing somebody when I'm asking them to do something uncomfortable, and I can be a little bit more sensitive to that. And I think just being seen and acknowledged means that I've noticed that talent really go far for me. They really push themselves, not, you know, past their comfort limits or anything, but they really get invested in the products that we create together, and it means a lot to me.
Is it your intention, do you think, to go more into the direction side of things, or you want to stay also performing?
You know, for me, whenever I got into mainstream pornography, studio shooting, it was always a marketing avenue for the content that I create. So I always intend to be creating content for myself and creating content and selling it off to studios. I just sold a scene to Babes with Manuel Ferrara that he and I were in, and I want to do more of that moving into my later years in porn as I've become a more established star. But yeah, I have a heart for directing. It really does. It's my challenge. Like, performing is muscle memory for me now. I want to stretch myself, so to speak.
Who would you like to nominate within the industry to also answer these questions?
Cherie DeVille.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?